Ethan was only 12 when he met Larea. He lived on a mining colony built on a dusty moon near the edge of the Orion Belt. The place was harsh and lonely. The sun burned through the thin air by day, and the cold could freeze steel at night. His father worked the heavy machines, and his mother managed a food station for the miners. Humans were not the only ones who worked there. The colony also used alien workers taken from defeated worlds. They lived in small, fenced camps, forced to work long hours in the mines. Most people looked at them with fear or pity, but Ethan was different. He had always been curious. He wanted to know what was beyond Earth, beyond the sky. One afternoon, while helping his mother deliver water to the workers, he noticed a young alien girl sitting near the gate. She looked tired and weak. Her skin pale with faint blue markings along her face, and her silver eyes seemed older than her years. Her wrists were bound by a metal band used to track workers. Ethan had never seen anyone like her. She looked scared, but when their eyes met, she gave him a small, shy smile. That night, Ethan could not forget her. He asked his mother who the alien girl was, but his mother warned him not to talk about it. "They are not free," she said quietly. "The guards don't like humans mixing with them." But the next day, Ethan sneaked back to the fence anyway. He brought a piece of bread and a water flask. The girl was there again, working beside others trying to lift a heavy crate. He handed her the food through the fence. She hesitated at first, afraid of punishment, but hunger won. She took it and whispered something in a soft voice he barely understood. He smiled and said, "You don't have to thank me." She tilted her head, trying to repeat his words. Slowly, day after day, they began to understand each other. Ethan learned her name, Larea. She came from a world called Vashri, a beautiful place with silver seas and trees that glowed at night. But her people had lost a war against the human dominion, and those who survived were sold to colonies like this one. She was only 10 when captured. Ethan listened in silence, feeling angry but helpless. He wished he could do something. They met secretly for weeks. He brought her food or small trinkets, a polished stone, a tiny mirror, a broken data chip. She smiled at everything he gave her, as if it was the most precious thing in the world. Her smile always made his heart feel warm. Then one stormy night, everything changed. A massive sandstorm swept across the colony, tearing down tents and power lines. The guards were busy trying to secure the fences, and Ethan ran out of his shelter to look for Larea. He found her hiding near the supply shed, trembling under a broken piece of roof. Her clothes were torn and her hands were bleeding from carrying heavy crates. When she saw him, she tried to smile, but tears filled her eyes. "They are selling me tomorrow," she said in a shaky voice. "A trader is coming. I don't know where he will take me." Ethan felt his chest tighten. "You can't go," he said. "You belong here. I mean, you're my friend." She shook her head gently. "We don't belong anywhere." Then she looked at him, her silver eyes reflecting the lightning flashing above. "But you are kind, Ethan. No one has ever been kind to me before." He didn't know what to say. The wind howled around them, lifting dust and sand. Finally, he took her hand and said, "When I grow up, I'll come for you. I'll find you no matter where they take you. And when I do, I'll free you, then I'll marry you." Larea blinked in surprise. Her lips trembled, and for a moment she looked at him as if he had just given her the stars. Then she nodded slowly. "Promise?" "I promise," he said, his voice steady even though he was scared. Before dawn, she was gone. The trader's ship came quietly, and by the time Ethan reached the camp, her spot was empty. The guard said she was taken to another system. Ethan stood there for a long time, staring at the sky, feeling the weight of the promise he had made. Years passed. The war between the Dominion and the Human Alliance ended. The world changed, but Ethan's memory of Larea never faded. He became a pilot for the Frontier Guard, a special rescue force that searched dangerous zones and saved survivors from old war zones. People called him brave. Some called him reckless. But in truth, he was still searching for her. His ship, the Sol Runner, had seen more battle scars than most. He flew through asteroid storms, radiation fields, and ruins of broken ships. He saved lives again and again, but every time he saw a refugee or a freed slave, he thought of Larea. He wondered if she was still alive. One day, during a patrol near the ruins of a Dominion fortress, his sensors picked up a faint distress signal. The coordinates pointed to an abandoned transport drifting between shattered rocks. The signal was weak, almost gone. His commander ordered him to ignore it and continue the route, but something in his heart told him not to. He turned the ship around and said to his crew, We're checking it out. The wreck was dark and silent. Its hull was torn open and debris floated everywhere. Ethan and his team entered through the side airlock. Inside, they found rows of cages, some broken, some still locked. It was a slave ship left to die after being attacked by pirates. The air smelled of rust and smoke. "Get the med drones," Ethan ordered. "Anyone alive, we take them." They moved fast, scanning each cage. Most were empty, but a few held weak survivors. As the rescue team carried them out, Ethan walked deeper into the corridor where he saw a small figure lying against the wall. Her breathing was faint, her skin pale blue with faint markings. He knelt down and lifted her carefully. When her eyes opened, even through the haze of weakness, he recognized them immediately. Those same silver eyes he had seen as a boy. His hands trembled. "Lariah," he whispered. Her lips moved slowly, forming a weak smile. "Etha." She whispered the old name she used to call him when she couldn't pronounce his full name. Then she fell unconscious. Ethan carried her to the ship, his heart pounding. The medics rushed to help, but even while working, they asked him, "Sir, how does she know your name?" Ethan couldn't answer. He just stared at her face, remembering that stormy night so long ago. The small girl he once promised to save was now here in his arms, broken, fragile, but alive. As the Soul Runner left the debris field behind, Ethan sat beside her in the medical bay, holding her hand as machines kept her alive. He felt a strange peace inside, as if fate itself had brought them together again. After all these years, his promise had found a way back through time and war. He didn't know what would happen next. He only knew one thing for certain: he would not lose her again. Not this time. Lariah opened her eyes slowly, the light above her soft and white. She felt weak, but the air smelled clean and the bed beneath her was soft. For a moment she was afraid she was still dreaming. Then she turned her head and saw him sitting beside her, older now, wearing a pilot's uniform with the symbol of the Frontier Guard. His face had changed with time, but his eyes were the same. "Ethan," she whispered. He smiled, his voice gentle. "You're safe now, Lariah. You're aboard my ship." Tears welled in her silver eyes. She reached out with a trembling hand, touching his sleeve as if to make sure he was real. You came for me." "I told you I would," he said softly. "I made a promise, remember?" Lariah closed her eyes for a moment, trying to hold back her emotions. So many years of fear and pain, yet this human, this boy from her past, had somehow found her again. She had dreamed of this moment countless times when she was trapped in dark mines and freezing camps. But now that it was real, it felt almost impossible to believe. Days passed as she recovered aboard the fleet's medical cruiser. Ethan visited her every day, bringing her fruit, water, and stories about the places he had seen. Sometimes she laughed softly at his clumsy jokes. Sometimes she just listened quietly, her gaze lost in thought. He told her about how the war had ended, how the Dominion had fallen, and how humans were now rebuilding peace with the remaining alien races. "I always hoped you were alive," he told her one evening, as they watched the stars through the viewport. "Every planet we went to, I looked for someone with silver eyes." Lariah smiled faintly. "I thought humans forgot us," she said. "When the mines collapsed, I thought I would die there. But I kept remembering what you said, that you'd find me. That memory kept me alive." Ethan looked at her quietly, his chest heavy with guilt and admiration. "You were stronger than I ever was," he said. She shook her head. "No, you gave me strength." The refugees rescued from the ship soon learned who she was. The girl the human officer had saved, the same one who had once known him as a boy. Her story spread through the refugee decks, and many began to see humans differently. They had lost so much to the Dominion's cruelty, but Ethan's act of kindness reminded them that not all humans were like the conquerors who once enslaved them. But peace never lasted long in the galaxy. One evening, while Ethan and Lariah were sharing tea in the quiet dining bay, alarms suddenly blared through the ship. Red lights flashed and the intercom shouted warnings. "Enemy ships detected. Multiple Dominion vessels approaching." Ethan jumped up. "They must have tracked the distress signal," he said, grabbing his communicator. "Stay here, Lariah. Lock the door. I'll handle this." She stood too, frightened but calm. "No, let me help. I know how they fight. I worked on their ships." Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "Stay close to the medics. Guide the refugees if the alarms go off again." He ran to the command deck while Lariah joined the medics in the lower section. The Dominion remnants began their attack, firing plasma bolts at the cruiser. The ship shook violently. Some refugees screamed, others froze in panic. But Lariah took charge, her voice steady and clear. "Follow me. Use the side corridors, don't crowd the lifts." She moved through the chaos, helping injured aliens and frightened children. Meanwhile, Ethan's ship squadron engaged the enemy. The battle in space was fierce. Explosions flashed outside the windows as the fleet defended the refugees. Ethan's ship was hit several times, but he refused to back down. "We hold the line," he ordered. "No one gets through to the med ships." Hours later, the Dominion fleet began to retreat, but one enemy cruiser broke formation and charged directly at the medical ship where Lariah was. The crew tried to steer away, but the impact tore through the outer hull, blowing open part of the corridor near the med bay. Lariah was thrown to the ground, gasping as air hissed out of the ruptured walls. "Seal that section," shouted one of the medics. But Lariah saw something through the broken window, a small fighter spiraling down in flames. It was Ethan's ship. Without thinking, she ran toward the escape hangar. "Lariah, stop," someone called, but she didn't listen. She climbed into a damaged shuttle and forced the launch controls. The engines coughed to life and the small craft shot into the black void, chasing the falling fighter. Her hands shook, but her eyes stayed focused. The fighter crashed onto a frozen moon below. Smoke rose from the wreckage. Lariah landed nearby and ran toward it, her boots sinking into the snow. The night was silent except for the crackle of fire. She found Ethan pinned in the cockpit, blood on his temple, his breathing shallow. She pulled the hatch open with all her strength, cutting her hands on the metal. "Ethan, stay with me," she cried, his eyes opened weakly. "Lariah, you shouldn't be here, and I said I'd help you. Now it's my turn to save you." She dragged him out, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. The air was freezing, but she kept moving, step by step across the ice until she saw the rescue beacon flashing in the distance. She refused to stop, even when her legs trembled and her lungs burned. The same way he once carried her out of darkness, she carried him now. By the time the rescue team arrived, Lariah had collapsed beside him, her hands clutching his. The medics rushed them both to safety. When Ethan woke up days later in the infirmary, Lariah was sitting beside him again, just like before. Her hands were bandaged and her face looked tired but peaceful. "You saved me," he said softly. She smiled faintly. "We're even now," he shook his head. "No, Lariah. You did more than that. You gave me back hope." The war with the Dominion remnants ended soon after. The Human Alliance granted freedom to all surviving slaves from the rescue. When officials asked Lariah what she wanted, to return to her home planet or settle elsewhere, she surprised everyone. "I wish to stay among humans," she said, because one of them kept his word when no one else would. Her words spread quickly across colonies and news channels. She became a symbol of peace between species, a reminder that kindness could heal even the deepest scars. Weeks later, during a peace ceremony on the capital world, Ethan stood in uniform beside the leaders of both races. Cameras flashed as he walked forward to receive a medal for bravery. But before the ceremony ended, Lariah stepped beside him. Her dress shimmered like liquid silver under the lights. She looked up at him with the same gentle smile she had given him as a child. "When I was little," she said softly, "a boy promised me that one day he would find me and marry me. I never forgot." The crowd went silent. Ethan looked at her, his heart full. "And that boy kept his promise," he said quietly. He took her hand and she squeezed it, tears glimmering in her eyes. Around them, humans and aliens stood together in silence. Then applause filled the hall, echoing across the chamber. As the stars shone outside the great window, Ethan turned to her and whispered, "This time, no one will ever take you away again." Lariah smiled, her voice soft as starlight. "I know, because you came back." And in that moment, surrounded by peace they had both fought so hard to reach, their story became more than just a promise. It became a legend told across the stars. A legend of a human boy who once swore to save an enslaved alien girl, and of a girl who waited through the darkness, believing that someday, somehow he would keep his word.